You are listening to Mining Stock Education, where you'll learn from the top leaders in the natural resource sector and uncover quality mining investment opportunities.
Like you say, through emails and phone, it's been like a stuck record. Like it's constantly, is it done? Is it done? Is it done? And so I can finally say that it is actually done now. So we have the financing, and it's a good deal because it really minimalizes dilution. We have a $4.5 million royalty component, and then we have a large component for equivalent of $17.5 million. And that will get us through the first phase, which we have for putting on the proven non-developed pools. And so we'll get cash flow fairly instant because we're drilling from the platforms. And this will make Trillion now another animal, like for our next phases and so on, because we'll have our own cash flow and everything, and it will change the company substantially.
Thanks for tuning in to Mining Stock Education. I'm your host, Bill Powers, and in today's show, we're going to be getting an update from CEO Art Halleran of Trillion Energy. Now, many of you have reached out to me and asked for an update, and the reason we haven't had Art back on the show is because we were waiting for that final capex announcement. If you listen to our previous interviews with Art, I'll put a link to those if you haven't. But if you did, we kind of laid out the blue sky potential, the cash flow potential based on the known and expected gas reserves. Well, all of that was contingent on securing the financing to then initiate these wells, spud these wells so that the company could see cash flow this year. It's kind of like a small key that can open up a big door for the company. Well, on the show today is Art. He has secured the financing and he's here to tell us about it and what the next steps are. So Art, congratulations on doing this deal. Could you break it down for us and what does this mean for the company?
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks, Bill, for having me back on this because, like you say, through emails and phone, it's been like a stuck record. Like it's constantly, is it done? Is it done? Is it done? And so I can finally say that it is actually done now. So we have the financing, and it's a good deal because it really minimalizes dilution. We have a $4.5 million royalty component, and then we have a large component for equivalent of $17.5 million. And that will get us through the first phase, which we have for putting on the proven non-developed pools. And so we'll get cash flow fairly instant because we're drilling from the platforms. And this will make Trillion now another animal, like for our next phases and so on, because we'll have our own cash flow and everything, and it will change the company substantially.
So when would the definitive agreement and the sending over of the money occur? How soon will that occur?
Part of the money will be about mid-May. That's the royalty part of it. And the rest should be about 15 to 30 days after that.
And then that money, if I recall from our previous conversations, you're going to use that to secure the rig, buy the consumables, and everything you need to spud the well later this year.
Yeah, that's correct. So what we've done, the rig that we wanted is called the Uranus rig, and it's for the deeper water. And that one wasn't going to be available now until March of next year. So there's a smaller rig from the same company, and it's called a Saturn. And so we'll be able to drill 2 wells and do a recompletion, and we expect to spud end of September. And it'll be drilling until December, but that means we'll get our first new cash flow in November. And then there will be about a month or so a hiatus. And then we'll have the larger rig will come in, and that'll be March. But that being said, with that, the 2 rigs, and they're only going to charge us 1 mob and demob, which will save us $1 million. But the way we've done it that way, we'll be able to spud end of September and have first gas because it takes about 30 days in November. So it's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. And so could you explain a little, and I know the answer to this question, but why do you need 2 different rigs? Why couldn't you just use the Saturn for the whole drilling?
So there's the Saturn it's a jackup rig, so it actually attaches to the platform, but the legs have to go to the bottom. And so the water in the Akakocha platform is about 20 to 30 meters too deep. So the rig is too small.
And the Uranus is the deeper rig then to drill out the other pods.
Yeah.
So when we see the Saturn, by December, let's say, are we at 1 million in cash flow a month with the drilling that the Saturn rig is going to do before Uranus starts drilling?
Yeah, that's correct. Like it should be. What's going to happen? Like the two wells that we're drilling, the previous discoveries, they tested 7 million cubic feet per day, which is fairly good. You're not going to put them on at that high, but you're going to start and then slowly increase it. So I would suspect you're going to be getting, like you say, 400,000, 500,000 per well. So that's two wells, plus the recompletion is also a reserve that will be like a new well. So you're talking 1 to 1.5 million per month. Before
Uranus. And then when that's Uranus right. starts drilling, like say next July, what type of cash flow per month should we be looking at?
We'll be up to what we said before, like 4 million, well, about 2.8 to 3 million consistent cash flow.
And will this 17.5 US dollars, we should note, this royalty debt deal, will that get you all the way through the Uranus drilling?
It will, but we will pad it with the revenue that we're actually doing. So we're going to get that revenue. That's going to go into the capex. At the same time, we're still doing like a financing invoice payment with Schlumberger. And so instead of taking the $21 million US and then maybe potentially having more dilution, we're going to have the 17.5. We're going to have our own internal revenue. And there's other things that we can do to complete the program. So that's not an issue.
And this is basically what you explained to me and my listeners is that you're trying to bring this field into production and advance it in at least dilution as you can. And that's how you've chosen this method.
That's correct. Yeah. And that's part of the concept of getting the shares to $1.25 or $1.50. It's not so much, well, it's like both dilution and activity, right? And when I see the SASB, I find that a lot of companies, once they have a property like SASB, they get cash flow and then they keep looking for the bigger king type thing. I can see that just by rolling your sleeves up and paying attention and reinvesting, we'll get to $1.25, $1.50 just from SASB, right?
And so you built Canacol, which is a $500 million Colombian gas producer. You were one of the founders there. So after you turned on the cash flow spigot, I'm assuming more finance opportunities opened up to you as well, right?
Yes, that's correct. So you'll get more, royalty agreements, more loans. And also if you want to do an equity financing, by that time you're up to about $2 a share, and it's a lot better, a lot more value.
And Art, you mentioned Schlumberger, so some listeners won't know who they are. Could you explain who they are and what are they doing for Trillion right now?
Yeah, Schlumberger, they say where you find oil and gas, you'll find Schlumberger. They're one of the largest companies, service companies, petroleum companies. And the reason why we're happy we got them is because we're actually, from the platform, instead of drilling straight down, we're reaching out. And you see from the maps that I showed last time. So before they reached out to about 600 meters, we are now reaching out 2 to 2.5 kilometers. And Schlumberger has the expertise in that. And they have the engineers that can calculate the trajectories. They have the directional drilling equipment. So what we've done is we've gone to them with our discovery well data, our seismic data, so we know where the pays are. We draw what we think is a trajectory, and then they go and based on their expertise and their equipment and so on, they put in a trajectory to actually go from our platform and tag the pay where we want to tag the pay and have a bottom hole location. And because they're the experts in it, it's a very good advantage for us, right? And this will also give us a lot of learnings to look at some of the other prospects that were too far at one time. And the difference between doing it this way and the old way is a straight vertical well, because the way the rig is, $11.5 million. So you drill 3 of them, then you got to have a subsea tie-in, which is 12.5. Whereas we can reach them from the platform, which we're doing. You talk $8 million. There's no subsea tie-in. When you have an issue, you just go from the platform, change your pump, all that kind of stuff. None of this waiting for the rig to come back in. So Schlumberger is a really big plus.
And we should point out for listeners that aren't familiar with the story that you actually have the platforms in the Black Sea, you have the pipeline at the bottom of the Black Sea, you have the gas processing plant on shore, and you have a buyer ready to purchase your gas already.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so you have an advantage there. And that's why you were just looking for about 20 million capex to bring production back in from this field. You also put out a press release since we last spoke about expanding your license block. Could you talk to us about this and how is that progressing?
The company has been there since 2002. So the drilling was later on, but they initially just did a whole bunch of seismic, geology, all that kind of stuff. So we have that data, and that it's a lot of data. It costs a lot of money, and we're just tweaking it with modern methods. So on the block, we have, like I said before, we have the discovered pools that are produced, discovered pools that are not produced. We have development locations, and we have exploration locations also that are all on the block. Well, it doesn't just stop at the block. So I've seen on our seismic and so on that the similar type prospects carry off our block and around our block, right? And so there's no mystery for that. It's just a matter of, can we reach it from our platform or do a little satellite tie-in? But in addition to that, there are larger prospects, which I've seen in the data now, that they're going to be exploration, but they will be big hitters. They won't be, 40 BCF or 60 BCF. Could be like half a TCF or a quarter of a TCF. And actually, that brings me to a point. When you look at the company's name, it's called Trillion. And our stock ticker in the Canadian Security Exchange is TCF. That means trillion cubic feet. And that's in regards to the gas. So my goal is to at least bring 2 trillion, a trillion cubic feet of gas that we can produce.
Well, Art, before you leave, I want to get your insights or response, I should say, to Alamos Gold. They announced a US $1 billion investment treaty claim against the Republic of Turkey. So when investors see this, because your project is in Turkey, they say, okay, something's wrong here. What has your intel on the ground been telling you in Turkey about this?
Yeah, I'm not going to say too much because I'm kind of treading on in the water I shouldn't be. But the fact is their permit said they were supposed to be able to cut 95,000 trees. They've cut over 200,000 trees, and it's actually a forest that's protected. So if that happened in your backyard, you would also be very upset. And then it started to have a more of a magnifying glass and some of the other things with the cyanide and some of the environmental impact assessment reports, right? But I've seen photos of the trees that they cut, and it doesn't look good, right?
And we should point out your partner is the Turkish government. They're a 51% partner. So you don't need just a license from the Turkish government. They're actually your JV partner.
That's correct. And we have all the permits. We have all the environmental impact studies. Everything is done, and it's been done a long time ago. So we don't have any issues for that. I just realized something. When I said a stuck record, I think I might have aged myself at that time because I'm not sure.
Well, when I was a kid, I had a record player, so I knew what you were talking about. My kids might not know, though.
Yeah, I was just thinking, modern days these days. So, okay.
Well, Art, as we conclude, any final thoughts you'd like to share? You've secured the capex, so we're just going to be looking for rig announcements and things like that progressing into the drilling in September?
Yeah, that's correct. The next thing I'll say is I'm looking forward to sharing a picture of when we test the gas on the platform and they flare. That'll be a good picture. It'll be a long time coming.
Excellent. Yeah, because you've been working on this since what year did you start with this project?
I took over as CEO 2017, but I've been a director for probably 5 years before that.
Okay, so almost a decade. By the time
Yeah.
and that's how the resource sector is too, right? You see the value in something, but it can take a decade to draw out the full value.
Yeah, that's correct, because the world goes through different changes, right?
Okay, well, the website is TrillionEnergy.com. Ticker symbol in Canada is TCF, and on the OTC in the States, it's TCFF. And we will be touching base again with Art as there's certain press releases or updates. But the big announcement has come. They secured the capex, and they will be cash flowing this fall. Congratulations, Art, and thanks for coming on the show again.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot.